3, 2, 1. Well, Mayor Bob, welcome back to Mayor's Monday here on WSAU.com. Another nice drive down here to Marshfield. I always appreciate the drive down here and to see what you've got going on. Of course, we wish we could get Central Avenue fixed, but
Right.
That's coming, right?
We do
That's
too.
coming. That's coming, but you still a lot of stuff going on right now here in Marshfield. You got a lot of big things that are going on. First off, your own office here. If we can turn the camera, you can see everything is boxed up, and everything is relatively empty. That's because you're getting ready to open up your new digs.
It's absolutely empty. There's not. The flags are still here, and my pens and whatnot. But yeah, we're excited. We're getting ready for the move. They're finishing up on the main part of the building. So that's going to be very interesting, and it looks very good, very functional. So there's been a lot of Public Works Director and the design team did a great job, I feel, in putting it all together. And so I believe we're moving there right around the 10th of September. So when you walked in here, you saw a lot of carts. They're already beginning the move, which is very interesting. Now, the council chambers and the court won't be available till probably the last part of September. We mainly wanted to get into the business part of City Hall to get everything completely functional there. And so they're still working on the council chambers and the AV area in the back there, and the court will be in there as well. But that'll be about a week or two delay from when we move into the other part. So we'll still be utilizing this building a little bit. But it's coming along great. Right now it's all on budget. Everything's looking real good.
That's the best thing that you can say for yourself, right? Everything's coming through on budget, because
on budget.
It's a big part for you. But I know in the discussions I've had with your predecessor, Mr. Meyer, before, he had said you talked about the functionality of the space. He said this space is just going to be so much better for us to move about and conduct our business, and for the residents too, who need to conduct their business there.
Yeah, it'll be nice when they could just come in. They'll be able to park right out in front, and whether they're going to come in and be looking for a permit or to, nobody likes going to City Hall to pay a fine or to pay their taxes, but it's going to be a very interesting, area for them to come into, and they'll be able to get in and out, so they won't have to go up an elevator and do everything else like that. That for some people is annoying. So there's going to be a lot better access, I believe, and all the departments are going to be very closely knit. We're up here on the 7th floor. If we want to go down to payroll, that's down on the 5th, or to the city clerk, that's down on the 5th. And so this is going to allow much better travel between departments. So overall, we're thinking that the functionalities, we're very excited about it.
So when will residents have to make that switch in their mind when they say, okay, we're going to City Hall, we're going, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it's just kind of kitty corner across the street from here to the old bank building, instead of coming to the plaza?
Yeah, I believe that'll be September 10th, and it's literally, you can just look out the window right there and you could see it. Our movers, I think they're still going to load up their truck and drive across the street. You don't want carts, and just people carrying carts and desks. Yeah. Across the street, and so but I guess they won't have the cost of transport. But we're very excited about it. I think it's going to go very well.
Yeah, as long as they're not paying you by you're paying them by the foot instead of by the mile. That
right.
Could be
exactly.
little expensive, but yeah. It's so we wish you all the best with the move. Again, you hardly had time to get settled into this office.
Right.
You didn't do a whole lot of decorating. You got everything picked out for the new office that you're going to fill out here for the next
I haven't. Oddly enough, this bank is the bank that I work at, the one that the city bought. So I'm kind of going back into some old digs there, and not the office. I actually didn't have an office in that one. I had one in a branch north of us, but it's pretty interesting. But no decorating yet. I'll get in there and see. And of course, the first thing I'll decorate is make sure that the flags are in there, pictures of my wife and my kids, and then everything else will come after that.
That's really what's most important, right? Is all of that stuff, all those little reminders of why you're doing what you're doing.
Why you're doing what you're doing. Yep.
And of course for the whole city as well. We don't want to just single them out, but of course they're important as well.
They are very important. Very important.
Speaking of the city and some of the changes that you've been implementing, one of the things that you said the first time I came down here to talk to you was public safety is high up on your list, being
right.
somebody who's worked in public safety as well. you've gotten some new improvements through it, some new radios to improve communication between some departments.
Yeah, I'm actually very excited about that. Before I was mayor, actually, in the October 10th, 2017 meeting, oddly enough, that's the first meeting that I actually physically went to. I have always watched the meetings on our MCTV, but I wanted to go there, and there was a presentation that night on radios, and the police radios. In many parts of the city, like there's not good cell coverage for some reason in some denser parts. But in some areas, actually over at the high school and over by Walmart, police officers' radios simply don't work. So if they're calling for backup or if there's something going on and they can't communicate, that's a huge problem. So the radio situation started off with that. And at that time, they asked for $180,000, and they thought that would alleviate 85 to 90% of the problem. Well, we go by months later, and then I was voted in April 17th and took office then, and I believe it was the first week of June, the police department came back and said, all right, so not only are we going to need the radios, but we're also going to need the towers, because if we get these new radios, but we don't have the bandwidth on the tower, we're not going to get that good of coverage. At the same time, our fire department radios are not really that great, and they carry in two radios into a fire, one VHF, one UHF. And so if you can only imagine, you're in there fighting a fire, a couple thousand degrees, and you have to remember which radio you're at. So then we looked at, okay, let's solve this problem, because it's a public safety issue, and that is the number one thing that local government should do, is public safety. So we looked at that, and now the firefighters, paramedics, everybody's going to get new radios and a new simulcast system. It went up substantially in price. It was going to go up to about $756,000. And then we looked at, all right, if we're going to do that, but that would be $756 over 5 years. Mm-hmm. So then you start piecemealing it out. What's it going to be? What's the cost going to be in 3 years for that? So we looked at leasing them, where we can get all of the radios, the simulcast system, get everything done now. Well, then, miraculously, the price came down to about $683,000. So with our lease terms, it's going to be a little bit more, because we'll probably have a lease rate at about 3%, which is okay. Over a 5-year period, going that route is going to cost us an extra $14,000. But when you consider you take out the variable of what labor or something could cost 2 to 3 to 4 years down the road, I think we're getting a good deal. Most important is the fact that our firefighters will be safe and our police officers will be safe, and that's a huge relief for everyone involved.
Yeah, and a lot of people too. I mean, especially I'm one of them. You hear the word lease and you think that's kind of a dirty term. You know, it's something that you're always going to be paying. It's never going to be yours. But when you're talking about technology like this as well, that's not only keeping your firefighters and your police force safe, but it's also technology that could change in 5 years. That sounds like a decent deal for the city, whereas, okay, we don't have these radios that we spent $250,000 on 5 years ago that suddenly aren't working or aren't state of the art. Right.
And my understanding, too, is at the end of the lease, we actually own the equipment as well. So it's just a different way to finance it. That I think it turns out to be very good. It is a little bit more if you just look at the $14,000. If you just look at that, it is certainly a consideration, because that $14,000 is taxpayer money. And we as city officials need to, that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. And so, but we believe that it's well worth it for the safety of officers and citizens. You know, if an officer is in a rough situation, or a firefighter is in a rough situation and they've got to get a citizen out, the last thing you want to do is go say, I'm sorry, our radios were dysfunctional. So it's something that we're very excited about.
Absolutely, and that's something that I think a lot of the people in Marshfield can be proud of, that you've made a step forward in public safety like this to, you know, for the good of the city.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's very interesting, because I'm hearing a lot of people are coming up to me more, mm-hmm. saying that they really appreciate the transparency. I'm out very visible in the neighborhood. I go to every public event I could get to. We had a town hall meeting here about a month ago that went very well, and I was really happy. I think we had 38 people show up, and we gave them, I gave a little 8 to 10 minute monologue on just an update on the city. We talked about the radios, talked about the roads, and then I was going to be there for 2 hours, and I think we were done in about an hour and 15 minutes. People had questions, some good questions and whatnot, and concerns. Steve Barg, our great city administrator, was there. And I told people, if I can't give you a legitimate answer, because it's very easy when you're giving answers just to kind of go off and typically become very confusing. But I told the people, if I can't give you a good answer, we're going to write your name down, your address, and your phone number and your email. We're going to get the answer, and then I'll call you or I'll come visit you, because there were a couple of people that had road issues or parking issues or whatnot. It was received really well, but I have to tell you this. When I showed up at their door the next day, they were shocked. I remember this one lady, she's like, "Aren't you a sweetie?" And I just thought, well, I guess I'm a sweetie now. So I think people are really liking the transparency, really do.
Yeah, and if I remember right, that was kind of to mark your 100 days in office, or,
Right.
or thereabout your 100 days in office. And
Yep.
we're a little past that. Maybe we're getting closer to the 200-day mark. But regardless, you're on a 2-year term, and you're a part-time mayor. So that's obviously a challenge that we've talked about before. But I think what probably the people most appreciate is that you're at least making that effort.
Yeah, they really do. I mean, the citizens of Marshfield are very gracious, and they'll come up and they'll speak their mind and whatnot. And what's interesting is I heard when I first started to run, "Why are you going to do that? Everybody's going to be negative." And it's like, I just didn't believe that. And I don't know, maybe it was just being naive or whatever. You're going to have everybody complaining, and I get my fair share of complaints. I have people come up to me at the store. No matter. And what's very interesting is they go on for about 2 to 3 minutes. They really let you have it. And then they're done. And you acknowledge them. And it was many people I had to get back to. Other people just wanted to be acknowledged. They wanted their concerns to be heard. And I really think that is resonating. I think people here in Marshfield are optimistic that they have a voice. Because many times, people feel shut out. I know that most local governments here, certainly in our surrounding cities, Wausau, Stevens Point, Rapids, they get the same thing. We're not really heard. And I know those people there in those local governments really want the input from the citizens. So I think we all need to do a better job of being open to and listening to the constituents.
So besides the transparency, your listening sessions, you've obviously made improvements to public works. Roads are going to be an issue here for several decades to come, and of course several decades after that. It's just going to be, it's a constant thing.
Right.
What else, are you looking for here in the next, say, 6 to 8 months or so of your tenure? What else is kind of the big topic on your plate?
Well, right now we're going through budgets, and that's very interesting. It's a very interesting process. Steve Barg, our city administrator, really puts those together. And a big topic that we're going through right now is how do we handle our communication? We currently have a cable coordinator, if you will, that's separate from the city. And so right now we're entertaining, do we bring that in-house or do we keep it kind of arm's length? And so we're really going through that right now, and we've had the help of our great, again, the Wausau, Stevens Point, Rapids, our neighbors all around us on what they do, and that's been very helpful. And so we're currently doing a good analysis on the benefits of the way we currently do it, and maybe the benefits of switching and doing what probably 95% of the cities in Wisconsin do. And but we're doing a good analysis to that on what we would want. And then the big thing is the cost component, which will be most beneficial and cost effective for the citizens. How can we believe we're going to be able to save a little money, which is very rare that you hear government say, we're going to save a little money. We're also working on our taxes, and we're going to do everything possible to keep our taxes low. We've had a lot of big developments, PCA, and we've had a lot of business expansion here in the city, and so you put those in TIF districts, tax increment financing. And because we've been able to do that and do a little borrower to help those businesses expand, what happens is their taxes, of course, go up. And because of all this development that's going on, that has helped keep our citizens in their homes taxes relatively flat for the last 5 years. So we're going to try to continue to do that, where we develop good, strong businesses. What we're most excited about here in Marshfield is that the business expansions are native to Marshfield. So these businesses continue to grow and prosper. And we're very proud of that.
And of course, with that, comes new residents. I mean, I think it was the last time I had talked to you, you said you had several hundred just job openings all across the city. Is that still the case right now?
Oh my gosh, you go up and down the street. You go over to the clinic, there's 400 job opportunities there. There's just job opportunities all over, and they're higher paying jobs, which I think is very good. One thing we do have right now is we have a bit of a shortage of homes. I believe we just did a study in our last council meeting. Josh Miller, our development services director, there's 63 properties for sale, and I believe 45 of them already have a contracted offer, which means you have basically no inventory for sale. Now, we know it's like that in many of our close neighboring cities as well, but that's great for sellers because, in the seller's market, prices are a little higher. We really thought, because interest rates bumped, last year at this time, rates were down at about 3 5/8, maybe 3 and 3.75. Now they're about a point higher, between 4.5 and 4.75, depending on the day. And we really thought that was going to have effect on home buying, and it sure did not. That bump probably kicked home buying into a little bit more, got some people off the fence. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, for the people who have decided, I love my house, but I want to do some things. So we've seen home equity lines of credits rise, and people, doing some home remodeling, and that's great for the, I think that has a lot to do with why jobs are so good. Is there's a lot of people out doing a lot of stuff. They're buying a lot of stuff to make their homes better.
Absolutely. One more quick then before we let you go. Talking about the housing, the inventory shortage, the land shortage, I guess you could say. How do you plan on tackling that as well sometime over the next couple of years during your term in office?
Well, one thing that we did in that study when Josh came in and did it, there was the last time that this city has done a development was back in 2002. So one of the things that the city needs to look at is there's a couple of areas. One I know has the availability of 25 homes, and there's another one I think with 20 homes. But the biggest issue is the infrastructure. It's, I believe he said $400 a linear foot to put in the road and the plumbing and the curb and gutter and all this. So that gets pricey, and you can't the developer has a difficult time putting that in there. So it's something where we're going to do some public-private partnerships maybe, and work with some local developers to see what we could do to help them out to get those developments in. Because if you look at it, it makes financial sense to help put in infrastructure, knowing that when those 25 homes sell, that's 25 different tax bases that's going to increase the revenue for the city, and hopefully that increase will make it to where we don't need to raise the taxes on everyone else. So we're seriously taking a look at those types of things as well. So it's very busy here in Marshfield.
We'll look forward to updates on those as they happen. Of course, our boy Terry's always great about updating us on what goes on down here in Marshfield, but it's great to get down and talk to you face to face as well every now and then for one of these video segments.
Sure, I always look forward to it.
All right, thanks, Bob. We appreciate the time, and we'll look forward to chatting again in a couple of months.
Great, thank you.